Hey everyone, today we are talking about lawn care red flags. And what does that mean? The problems if you're starting a lawn care company, you're starting to mow lawns, that can really make these bad that you might not be thinking about. The things that are gonna come up, the challenges. And I've got 3 for you today that if I would have known in the beginning, it would have saved me more time. Some is common sense, some is painfully learned through experience in the school of hard knocks. So, first one, stuff you have to go around. And not just stuff you have to go around with a mower, but more specifically with a weed eater, a trimmer, or whatever you want to call it. I think trimmer sounds more professional than weed eater. But when you're using some kind of trimming device that is spinning string and it is potentially going to damage stuff. So what all do you have to go around? Fence posts, mailbox posts, plants, siding, painted stucco. Don't know what your market has. Think about all of those things. Those are all red flag areas, hot button areas, to where if you're going out and visually looking at a lawn, you'd be, whoa, there are some challenges there. I need to let the homeowner know. Or if you're doing GPS estimates and things of that sort, you need to have it in your terms of service that, hey, all these things, like this is what's gonna happen. Because your job as a business owner, or at least I feel like my job is, and it's made us successful, because this protects them from running into that, oh my God, I would have never guessed, now I'm pissed off at you situation. It really doesn't protect them, it protects you. But so think about these things. A mailbox. If you weed eat around it and you're doing a good job, you've got to weed eat all the way up to it, unless someone's sprayed around it. And that means your weed eater string, it's going to consistently chew up that post. Fence post, same way. Trimmer string, it's going to continuously chew up that post. Plants, if they don't have a landscape bed around them. How are you going to trim around a tulip or do whatever, or whatever plant it is? It could be anything, roses, hibiscus, whatever the climate is, whatever the plant is. How are you going to trim all the way up to a plant? And if it's really not a woody plant, it's really soft and something that like would just get destroyed and decimated with a weed eater, how are you going to trim up to that? Because to do a good job, you have to trim all the way into something to like a final, like a leading edge, right? And so now if we're doing a good job, that means we're actively chopping into the plant. If we're chopping into the plant, we're upsetting someone. So think about all these things. Houses, here in Florida, there's stucco houses that are painted. If you're weed eating up to the house, you have to drag along the side of that house with a string. So that trimmer string has to hit the side of the house. And it always, if there's no bed on the side of the house, it always eventually flakes it and leaves a line across that house where it's chipping the paint because you had to do it. Otherwise, you're gonna have grass. It's one bad or the other, right? That's done, or you've got grass growing way up the side. And so the way to handle all these situations is to have it in your documentation. One, it needs to be in the documentation no matter how you do this. But if you meet a homeowner in person and you're pricing mowing, you need to say, hey, there's a potential issue there, there's a potential issue there, there's a potential issue there. No matter how good you are, a homeowner, team member, owner is going to have a problem when they weed eat this area. When they trim this area, they are going to hit that plant. They're going to hit that mailbox. They're going to hit this. And maybe it's going to be a thing like a plant where there's damage today, or maybe it's a thing like a mailbox where 2 years of servicing and they're like, oh my God, my mailbox is falling down because you've mowed my lawn. This is something you bring up to the homeowner, and then this is something you put in the terms of service that if it doesn't have landscape bedding around it, if it doesn't have protection, we cannot be liable for those things, because to do a good job, you have to trim up next to it, and eventually one of those things is going to get damaged. Siding is notorious for this. For some reason, up north, vinyl siding shouldn't be ran all the way to the ground, but some houses it is. If it is, eventually you're going to hit it. It doesn't matter if you're the homeowner or not, and you can't be liable for just doing your job, right? It's one thing if it's a careless act. It's a whole other thing if it's something that it's bound to happen because it was set up for failure from the way it was designed. And so that is one of the red flags you're going to have to look for. The other red flag you want to look for on a property is access, right? What is the access like? You might have one big mower and the backyard has a 25-inch gate. So what do you do? This is a huge red flag that you need to try to pay attention to. GPS, you can usually see this from a street view. If you're on site, obviously you need to pay attention to this, and when you're walking the property, you need to look for, does my equipment fit? This is something that can really derail a project for you. It can really derail something and make it where, one, you can't make any profit, or two, you just have to turn around and dump that. When we do GPS estimates, we're always constantly looking for gate openings to verify we're not gonna have an issue. And if we were worried about the gate opening, then it's like we wanna verify that the lawn and back is so small that it doesn't matter if we push mow. Because if it's huge, we're gonna have to say right at the beginning, oh, looks like we need to go investigate this property. It looks like a potential problem. This one we need to look at before we can even quote. Or we just ask the homeowner how wide's the gate once we have like some question about it, right? And so those are things you really need to look for. And finally is grade. Grade presents all kinds of challenges when you're maintaining a property. If you have steep grades, it can cause dangerous stuff to happen, mowers flip. It can cause lawns to get rutted twice as easy. It can cause just havoc. The potential for getting stuff stuck, because steep grades usually end in low spots that in those low spots gather water. And so these things all have to be taken into account when you're looking at a property. And that's where some people will say GPS doesn't work, but typically I would say most people know their service areas, know where the steep places are, know where the problematic areas lie, and or this is the thing that where if you do a GPS estimate, it protects you when you say, hey, if we need to go quote this, or if we get out there and variables are a little bit different, we may have to change the price or talk to you about this service. So these are the three things that I really want you to look out for though. The number one we went over is probably the biggest, because it's going to lead to the most situations where you look like you're in the wrong because you didn't bring it up, or you look like you're in the wrong because it wasn't in the documentation. I mowed over the little tiny plant that was in the middle of the grass, or weeded it down, and now I'm the bad guy. And should you have paid attention? Yes. But with a weed eater, can you help from damaging it? No. So we need to talk about those things up front. We need to ensure that our clients are educated about the things that we just can't do. Lanais are another great example down here in Florida. They'll have a lanai that ends at the lawn, and if there's no landscape bed, I always tell homeowners, it doesn't matter who it is. Eventually someone is going to hit that screen and they're going to rip it. It's not that they're even like careless. It's just you can't help some things because they're set up for failure. So if you watch the things you have to trim around, if you watch the access points and you watch the grade changes, you're gonna have much better success when you start your lawn care company. Thank you for watching this. I wish you the best success. Subscribe to this, like this, and share this with someone else starting so you can save them some pain.